Welcome to Beyond the Document, the podcast from Lasernet, where we discuss everything within our industry of document management and customer communications. And today we're going to take a look at the modern banking ecosystem, a place where Lasernet resides. The market and modern banks now demand a complete solution, which in turn drives the need for most core banking systems to support a meaningful ecosystem to complement their core. To discuss the current state of the market, it's great for me to be joined by our colleagues from Antuar, who work in a number of the same banking ecosystems as ourselves. I'm also really lucky to be joined by the two co-founders, Gearóid Power and Frainc Reid. Welcome to the podcast, chaps.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Ben. Good to be here with you.
Mate, it's good to have some Irish weather here in London today as well.
It certainly has made us feel at home. It's not too warm and it's very wet.
Now, both Lasernet and Antuar have come into banking core ecosystems to fill specific functional gaps, ourselves in document and communication management, and yourselves in teleservices. Now, I know you both have a really good grasp of the industry from our previous conversations. So can you share with everybody a little bit of your experience of integrating into that broader ecosystem?
Thank you, Ben. So, we come from a teller background and our system has been designed from the start to be built for integration. Sure. Now, when we're talking about teller applications, we've got to integrate two ways. We have to integrate to peripherals such as check scanners, document printers, chip and pin devices, etc., as well as into the branch ecosystem.
Yes.
Now, we're going to focus mostly on the bank ecosystem going forward, but as a teller application, Antuar retrieves data from many different sources. So if we take an example of a start in a customer session, we may retrieve accounts and balances from the core banking system. We may retrieve customer information from a CRM system. We may retrieve documents such as an ID from a document management system. We build up this information and we present a 360 view of the customer to the tellers, and then they can now start to interact with those customers.
Sure.
The application is designed to be to retrieve information asynchronously and in parallel. So whilst we might be waiting for information to come from a CRM system, once we have the accounts and balances, we can start to transact. Now, the advantages of these ecosystems are that you get best of breed applications from companies such as ourselves that are laser focused on certain areas. In our example, we're laser focused on the branch channel, but you also get a fully integrated ecosystem.
Yes. Yeah.
So now you have the best of both worlds insofar as you have a fully integrated system that is also the best of breed technology.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we see this, and the way that you're talking, obviously similar to the way that we sometimes talk about Lasernet when we're first presenting that solution to a prospect or an existing client, actually. And I do agree with that point that you just made, where we are looking at having complete ecosystems, but with those modular, that laser-focused thought leadership as well. Yeah,
everybody working at their areas of expertise,
yes.
And this allows more innovation. It allows everything like that to come from the people who work in this area day in, day out.
Yeah. And then I guess that brings us on to our next point. To enable that to work, we've got this lovely word that I struggle with, by the way, of interoperability, right? So the only way that we can all work within this ecosystem is being able to operate together. So when we look at that one, it's really, really important to have that in play to enable it all to talk to each other in effect. So what have you seen that has allowed those integrations to be smoother and work better?
I think in reality, things haven't been interoperable for years. They've got a lot of legacy stuff that's there. I think what's happened in the more modern day architectures, we can talk together on a more standard REST API type infrastructure for calling stuff out. It used to be the case that, as Frainc said, because we were core agnostic, we were built to integrate, and we've got experience of integrating into MQ, COBOL copybooks, SOAP stuff, REST stuff, files, and everything like that. A lot of that has gone away as technology's moved on, and we're kind of coalescing towards a fairly REST-centric call-outs. You also got the pub and sub type infrastructures, but typically an awful lot of the real-time applications are going for REST service APIs. So what that means is that if everybody's exposing REST APIs and everybody's consuming them, then that conversation between two systems becomes much easier. As we move forward in interoperability, I think the other thing to kind of consider is that the way that we're now deploying solutions, it doesn't really matter where they're deployed because it's all the Internet of Things almost, is that you guys deploy Lasernet in one data center for the States and we might be in a different data center, and that communication can happen. Now, obviously you've got to put the security into it, but interoperability isn't just trying to make it all work in the same data center, right? So that extends out the capabilities of banks to say, hey, you know what? I want the best of breeds document management from Lasernet and FormPipe, so we can go get that. We can effectively just turn that on, right? So that's where the technology is getting to, right? So interoperability has changed an awful lot. We're coalescing towards standards between in the industry, not just in the banking sector, but across many of the enterprise stuff. It becomes irrelevant what language your code is written in. It becomes irrelevant what sort of architecture you're deployed in because they're all nearly black boxes.
But you're saying that they're relevant because of that reliance and the importance of the open APIs.
Exactly. So if the communication language is unstandardized, then it doesn't matter what the source is or where the source is. So that interoperability means that everybody can be focused on what's the best technology for them. Or do I want to use Amazon? Do I want to use Azure? Do I want to use Google? Do I want to use IBM to deploy it? Doesn't really matter, because it used to be the case that banks would nearly say, we want it all to be on the same architecture, the same other thing, because they were managing it. And if they were managing it, they wanted everybody on the same database because the licensing for databases would be the same. The license for application servers, they get economies of scale from doing it. That doesn't have to happen anymore. So the interoperability between the systems, the gel between them, the glue, that's what it's critical.
But I also sense when I speak to you that we're not there yet. So there's still improvements around interoperability that need to be made within ecosystems.
Sure. I think that, that the reality of it is that you've got standards, let's say in APIs. If you think banking, BIAN as an example, is trying to put the structures of the data together, not just the technical format of them, like APIs. So in that respect, that's a standard that hasn't really been fully consumed by the industry, but there are things there that we're coalescing towards, that's for sure.
And my takeaway on this one as well is, do you see the appetite for that to happen? Because often we have got the technical resources and skills available to get there, but sometimes there is red tape within banking or maybe legal reasons that are stopping us from operating in that way. So do you see from the general market, and really I'm talking about the banks here, the appetite to be able to operate in that way?
I'd say for sure. They all want to get there. What's preventing them really, I would say, is just the legacy. They've got old systems that are in place that to upgrade them to the latest standards of messaging or the latest standard message structures is a huge lift, that it's easier to try and potentially, dare I say it, replace that with a newer technology.
And going back to my previous point about using companies that are hyper-focused on their specific areas, providing best-of-breed solutions, this allows more agility, innovation, etc. And the ecosystems, they're not really tech meeting tech just. They're also about the business coming in from is companies that are focused on resolving business issues in their areas and working with their partners to provide meaningful solutions. And this is what will drive forward the solutions, rather than where you have legacy companies that maybe somebody wants to do something here. They're two, whilst they're more joined together, they're still too disparate to be able to drive through these changes. So this allows the best of breed, or the laser focus, whatever way you want to call it, of being able to stay in your lane and provide the correct solution for the business problems that you see in the industry.
I mean, legacy is such an interesting one for us, having been in the market for 18 years now. We know a lot of organisations are running legacy tech. Fortunately for us, it's a good thing because we can work with those systems as well. But it always shines a light for me when you do walk into a greenfield bank and they don't have any of these issues and they're allowed to build the architecture
that they want.
Yeah, and you're like,
Yes.
it's a nice position to be in.
Now, a lot of the greenfield banks these days are digital,
Yes.
rather than branch.
Yeah.
But the point remains that the branch is still a very important channel for the traditional banks.
Yeah.
It is a channel that has possibly been I won't say underutilized, but there has been less investment in the software that's used within the branch that you have within the other channels.
Yeah.
And today it is ripe for improvements.
Yes.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I know your website says bringing innovation to in-branch services.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
So then stepping away from that and looking back onto the ecosystem a little bit, I mean, we find that strong communication is always needed within any ecosystem, and I'm thinking of the ones that we operate within banking. Now, that's communication between ourselves and the core, but also between ourselves and other members of that. And then most crucially, let's not lose sight of those actual banks, the clients, who are the ones who are driving the ecosystem forward. So in your experience, what's worked for you and your business in ensuring that there is clear communication within the different members of an ecosystem?
It's software, and how many software projects are easy, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the magic sauce, right?
Yeah.
So there are a few different things. You potentially need to have a good set of business requirements, and from a very high level, you've got a good strategy team within the bank that keeps anything on track.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go off track and increase scope. It's very difficult to improve in a banking ecosystem piece by piece. You have to have a longer term strategy to go with it. And it's about introducing partners at the same time. There's a few different ways of doing that. Either you've got a really good set of technologies, it always helps.
Yes.
You've got a good internal teams within the bank. Maybe you take on a good systems integrator and they own the overall piece, so that they have the expertise of delivering projects, but also understanding software working together.
Yeah.
There are other scenarios where, we've been talking to you guys with some of the providers where we're going in under the hood, if you like, of, let's say, a core provider.
Yeah.
So the core provider is demonstrating that they have confidence in the selection of technologies put together. They've tested it and it all works. And what that means then is that gives the banks confidence that, it all works together.
But also standardization of the APIs, etc. The advances that have been made in this area has allowed integrations to become a lot easier. And if we take our two companies, Antuar and Frainc, that we have done an integration together, which was very, very quick and very, very painless.
Yeah, if I can just jump in on that one. I mean, we were introduced through a third party on a bid for a bank in the States. Yeah. We presented to the bank. We had met for the first time at that presentation. A month or two later, we had a proof of concept completed. And when we went back to the bank, we had something to show them of the two companies working together. So that's communication between partners, but it also shows your interoperability and the technologies that we can move faster. Yeah. And there's a few reasons why we can move faster. As Frainc said, there's the standards and the APIs. We all know how they're going to work. So it's an easier thing to understand the definition of your API. We look at that, we go, that's what we do. But also I think, and again, to reiterate a point that Frainc made, is that, because we are best of breed in our areas, we're essentially fintech. And fintech means that we're innovative, we're hungry, we're agile, and we're able to move much, much faster than a traditional large company where there's a lot of extra red tape, but probably even more legacy. Yeah. So the red tape is because of legacy, but because you've got to get 1,000 people in a room to sign something off. So communication between the partners allows us to move faster, and we're all hungry for that next best thing.
I find when I get involved in the actual delivery of some projects, which isn't too often, but sometimes I am, the ones that are successful are where the bank's got a clear requirement that they're trying to achieve, almost the masthead of the project. This is why we're doing this. This is why we're investing X amount of millions into this. And when the SI, the core, and then the ecosystem players all buy into that and don't lose sight of that, even when we get into our technical deep dives, I feel that's really important to know. This is why we're getting out of bed in the morning, guys.
I couldn't agree with you more. The reality is that software is only a percentage of the solution.
Yes.
The message that comes down from management, even after the software has been delivered, is equally as important as the message that comes from management before the project starts. So that has to be very clear at the beginning of the project, but it also has to be very clear that how they're going to use the solution to improve customer experience, to improve customer satisfaction, to drive business through the branch or to the bank. So I couldn't agree with you more there.
So market leading technology, interoperability, customer focus, and good communication. What else do we need to keep our ecosystems evolving? What other things do we need to develop as a community moving forward?
Well, I think, one of the things that we've discussed for a while is modularity.
Yes.
We're getting to the point of a solution where we're delivering it in sort of two ways. One is a low-code, no-code type scenario where, and you guys are very much the same in terms of your solution.
Yes.
You sell the solution and the bank configures it,
yeah.
right? Or the bank, as we're talking banking industry, they configure it. So you don't necessarily have to be building code.
Yeah.
But if you can do that, you're getting to the point where it's a product, it's easier to sell, it's more robust, and it's going. So what I'm thinking in terms of modularity, if we can work together as an ecosystem so that feature functionality isn't just a feature within your application or our application, it is a combined feature. Mm-hmm. So for example, if you're thinking about on your document management that you've got the facility to validate a business or a driver's license.
Yeah.
So we pass a document to you. Now you can validate the driver's license and you do that as a service on your side. If we can, if you like, lean in on that and say, right, if a driver's license is presented to us and we know that we can validate that through your system,
yes.
It's feature functionality that we're building, that you're building, and together they can be delivered as a module,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not just we're thinking individually about, do you know what would be really good if we did this?
Yeah.
Or you saying, do you know what would be really good if we did this? Yeah. So if we can now go to a bank and say, hey, just take that example, is that if you want to validate your driver's license and you're working with FormPipe and Antuar, we can just turn that on and it works seamlessly between the two.
Yeah.
Rather than we've got a feature that we're trying to force you guys to do some development work for, or vice versa. Yeah. So I think that interoperability between partners allows us to kind of move forward together. And dare I say the term, we're stronger together in that respect, right? And I think there are some ideas that working with the partners rather than in a project together.
Yeah, and that's what we see all the time. It's better to have those partners that you're aware of. You can signpost people towards them, or what is better is working hand in glove, shoulder to shoulder, whatever phrase you want to use, as true ecosystem members.
For sure. And I think that there's a few other things to consider on that, is that it's not always a case of waiting for a customer to say, hey, I want this. Yeah. Now, that always is a great driver. Yeah. But if we're meeting on a regular basis, you talk about communication between partners, that's meeting in the pub and talking crap, but 10% of it's a great idea after a few pints, and you're kind of going, hey, if we did this together, we might be able to sell that. Yeah. So working within those ecosystems as a group, and we as a group, FormPipe and Antuar are kind of in sort of two or three different communities at the moment, where we're sharing like work that we do in one, we're getting the benefit in the other two, and vice versa.
And it's all driven by market client need. It's not just us coming up with wacky ideas because we want to do some more work together.
Sure, but some wacky ideas are great too, right? Don't get me wrong, right? I think the reason why I say that is that you need to be able to apply ideas that, we're professionals. We're not going to come up with an idea that is just useless, right? We think about the market, what the clients need, what their customers need, and go, hey, is there a way of making that simpler? And if we can, and then I come up with an idea and talk to you, Ben, and we say, hey, if we work on this feature together, even if initially it's just a pure concept, and then we can pitch that to a client and go, hey, what do you think about this? And if they like it, we know we're on a winner, right? But you're going to do the market research on it. But it's that combined solutioning that isn't just, purely reactive to the scenarios.
And when you mentioned configurability a few minutes ago as well, we still get a real kick out of doing our account management calls, going into a client, and we will have probably sold our software on one or two
features,
proofs of concept that they needed to see. Then you go in and they've configured it and they've mapped it and they're calling it.
It's probably only too much.
Maybe we're losing a bit of revenue there. But when we see what other partner software they're calling out to, it sets you off thinking as well.
But I think that's where the reality of it is that as the fintechs that we are, I think we need to think about ourselves more than just software providers. I think we need to consider ourselves as solution providers. We work with the clients to get the best solution. Some of that might be turning down a bit of business because you know what, that's not the right thing to do. And I think that if you do that, you can be more longer term relationship and trusted with the customer. And therefore, when you do come up with an idea that you want to work with, it can add huge value.
We did a LinkedIn post only the other week about that, saying it's more than just a software company. You're buying into a company that cares as well, and these are the reasons.
Exactly, right? And I think, dare I say, sometimes on the larger companies, you're just a project, you're just a number, you're what's the correct term? You're a cost code. Do you know what I mean? A cost center. So I think that's some of the things that I think the smaller fintech, more agile guys, they seem to care more, and I think that's value that banks can tip into. But you put a bunch of those together, they all feed off each other, and it's great.
The configurability also plays into providing software as a service, because it allows you to have out-of-the-box functionality that is still customizable and configurable by the institution themselves, and they can manage that going forward. So, do you want fees on issue cashier's checks, for example? Just go into the application and
yes or no, define the fees.
Define the fees, and away you go. Do you want to apply holds automatically to checks, or do you want to give tellers the flexibility to select when to apply holds, or do you want it just bypassed and whatever the core system does, it does. So we give you the configurability, we give you the all of that without affecting your out of the box services. So you are still in an ecosystem that is upgradable, that you can use going forward for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
So that's the ecosystem. What about Antuar? You're known within our ecosystems and our communities as having market-leading telemanagement software. On your website, you say that you help banks innovate in branch. But what's next for you guys and your company?
Look, the future is bright, really, especially since we met you guys, obviously. But I think there's a few approaches that we're taking. We've been in this game for a long time. We've re-architected our technology to be more modern, to be more cloud based. We're really leaning into that technology. And we think that we're going to remain becoming that best of breed branch focused elements. We're going to continue focusing on the branch. And again, I think that's probably one of our differentiators, is that we're not getting distracted by trying to boil the ocean on everything that a bank needs to solve.
stay in our area of expertise.
Stay in our lane, yeah. So, you're talking about ecosystems. I think in the coming year or two, we're ingratiating ourselves well with some of the main core providers to become almost sold as a module, which within their ecosystem of delivery, which they get the benefit of because we're focused on branch. We can innovate at that level faster than they can.
And it's something they don't do in their core.
It's something that they may do, but dare I say it, I think we will do better because we have that focus on just the branch, that agility to do it. So, if we can play well with these guys, where they sell as a module and we're effectively OEM'd in, it's our technology and those companies and their clients are getting the benefit of that best of breed, even though it may not be directly from us. But at the same time, we are built to integrate. We are built to be core agnostic. So we can do teller-only projects. So I think that what we're seeing at the moment is that the drive in the industry is that cores are being upgraded at the moment.
Yes.
So that is a huge project for a bank. So if there's a core movement, then we feel like there's a pull on the teller side. So if we're part of that ecosystem, and that's great, and they can sell that, that's brilliant. But there's other demands to change teller for not just because you're changing the core, but maybe you want to improve your efficiency and differentiate yourself at the branch. Maybe it's a case of your old teller software is legacy and just not fit for purpose, right? So there's an opportunity there for us to do that, and we still can do that. But I think, one of the things that we're seeing is that by keeping our focus in our lane, as you said, allows us to innovate quicker. And, everybody benefits from that as we go through it, But one of the other key things is that this ecosystem element as well is that we now have plugins for FormPipe. So when you're part of the same ecosystem, because we're together already, I dare I say it, we're going back to it, we're stronger together. So if we're both going in together and going, hey, these guys are already talking to each other, already proven, then brilliant. If there's a relationship between, let's say, our product guys and your product guys, how do we solve this problem in a meaningful way that's also a benefit that is probably not seen directly by a customer, but allows us, when we are talking to ecosystem partners, that we can go, hey, we're all in this together and therefore we're good. So again, reiterate what Frainc said, is that some of these ecosystems are able to get best of breed in each of the areas, even though they might be painted as one group going out,
And that gives you all of the advantages. And I'd just like to reiterate Gearóid's point about the standalone teller. That is still somewhere that institutions don't want to go through the full core replacement. But they're looking at how can we better deliver customer experience, efficiency at the branch, then your channels, and in particular your branch channel. This is where we can also help. So
fantastic. Well, we love working with you guys, and we enjoy watching your road to success as well as you go through and start to
we're just holding on to your coattails, trying to keep up.
If only. Well, look, thank you for today.
Thank you very much for having
us on the podcast.
Good to see you again, Ben.
Thank you to everybody listening to this. If you want to learn more about Antuar, then please go to antuar.com. I'm Ben Saxton. Catch you next time on Beyond the Document.